Alrighty, what do we got going on today? Apparently I need to hire a trainer. That. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue. You just, if you, a homemade latte, if it's done right, is incredible. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. It's incredible. Anyway, as you can tell by the title today, Health and Fitness, apparently I need to hire a trainer. Or the other title, it's another way of saying I'm wrong when it comes to training. This is kind of the interesting little word games that people play when I share information in regards to exercise, and specifically, there's a lot of different ways that you can exercise, but resistance training is resistance training, whether you're using weights, machines, body weight, kettlebells, weighted clubs, or rubber bands, or whatever you're doing. You're putting resistance on the body, and your body's going to respond by repairing muscle fibers, building new muscle fibers, and adapting to that situation that you put yourself in regards to putting resistance on your body. It just kind of a simple little thing, but unfortunately what we found is a lot of bro science over the years has created a lot of people who think that they know everything. And I ran across a few other people, unfortunately. I woke up this morning and cranked out another latte, and I'm doom scrolling through Facebook, and I'm finding a number of people who are responding to my posts and so on and so forth. And there's some other groups that I belong to where there's a few people. I would say 3 people. There's actually 3 people. But I just found it odd that they all popped up at the same time and all basically saying the same thing. Well, I've been working out for 30, it's a range of 30 to 40 years. And I'm coming up on, I'm working on my 40th year of exercise and so on and so forth. And these people are like kind of bemoaning the fact that the information that I post from studies showing that through a variety of things, but this one was, heavy weight and low repetitions versus low weight and high repetitions, as long as you're within and you have more volume than the heavy weight, 20 to 30 reps, you can get some hypertrophy. There's also the rest that's considered, or the rest that you have between your sets needs to be considered and lengthened to about 2 to 3 minutes. It seems to work out well. And again, all this is based on studies. There is hypertrophic growth with both of those techniques. So it's not, and unfortunately, I found even in my own life, we learn something, and what we learn, that's right. And then if there's something else that pops up, it's like we have this decision to make, because now it's like everything that we've been taught that is right, and then we have this new information, we have a choice. We can adapt to the new information and change our beliefs and use those things to the best of our ability and become more efficient, more effective, so on and so forth, with this new facts that come into play from studies and meta-analysis. Or we can just double down, hit me twice, and we're going to stick to our guns and say, this is the only way. And I'm sorry, but that just doesn't work. That's not how science works. That's not how discoveries happen. That's not how we become more efficient and effective in our processes, in our techniques, and so on and so forth. That's not how it works. And so many times, people are stuck in their own heads, and I was too for the longest time. I'm preaching to the choir, because I learned this here, and this is the truth, and nobody is. I was stubborn for a long time. And you got to, that's an admirable trait, that you're holding on to what you believe is true. But when new information comes out and shows that the thing that you thought was true wasn't really true, you probably should adapt and not fall on your sword on something that has been shown to not be true anymore. Case in point, I remember the great debate was, free weights versus machines. And free weights will always produce more hypertrophy and strength than machine weights ever will. That was a mantra and it should have died a long time ago. But it didn't, because for the longest time there weren't excuse me, there weren't any studies showing this to be true. And it wasn't until we had studies of showing that resistance training is resistance training, whether it's with a machine or whether it's with free weights. Studies have shown that, yeah, it's absolutely true. There's no difference. You can get hypertrophy and strength gains with machines or free weights. And matter of fact, in today's world, I think machines offer a great benefit because they have increased safety measures. So in other words, if I'm doing, say, like an incline bench on a hammer strength machine, and you got the individual handles, and as you're pushing up, you're getting, and you can put a lot of weight on there. But if I let go for whatever reason, I can just drop it and boom, the handles go back. There's no bar that goes across and decapitates me. I can pretty much bail and be safe. So again, we have this minimal risk of injury. Whereas if I'm doing a barbell and I'm doing an incline press and I'm going up and I come back down and I can't get it up, or for whatever reason, let's say, you hear a pop in the shoulder or the pec, or you tear something, or ligament, tendon, whatever it is, a combination, and then that bar comes down and hits you, in your pie hole. Yeah, you're gonna be out for the count. And if you're doing extremely heavy weights, the heavier the weight that you use, the greater the chances of injury. And we're talking about bench, incline bench, things like that. Whereas machines have safety mechanisms, and most notably, they don't have a solid bar that's going across your neck where if you bail, you're not going to get your head cut off. You're not going to, which is great. That is an awesome thing. I haven't done bench press since I was 53. Yeah, I did my recomp for 3 years. I went from 210 pounds to 263. I did bench. I did all that stuff. But eventually, when I got into machines and I read studies that showed that hypertrophy and strength gains can be had regardless of whether it's a machine or free weights, and especially with the safety mechanisms of machines, that is an added benefit and bonus, and you can't beat it. It's a great way to do progressive overload if you don't have a training partner, which back in the day, training partners in the gym used to be a thing. You had your training partner, and you and him or her, depending, on who your training partner was, could help you through sets. They would be able to spot you on the heavy lifts. But now we don't need that because we have machines, and boom, I can do those heavy lifts on machines. I don't have to worry about my safety. So, and then the studies came out showing that, yeah, you can get strength and hypertrophy from machines. So that myth has been busted. What people have told me, those three people that we're talking about, were saying, apparently I need to hire a trainer. You need to hire a trainer because, you get the best of blah, blah, blah. And oh, by the way, it just happens that these three people are certified trainers. I never get it from anybody else. It's always the people that are trolling for clients, and which is fine. That is absolutely fine. If you're offering a good product or service and you do online coaching, then yeah, I feel free to advertise. But to fly in the face of all the studies and the meta-analysis and the things that have been shown to work and debunk a lot of the old myths and bro science, and then kind of throwing that in and saying, hey, you need to hire a trainer if you want real results. I'm 57 and I've got 18-inch arms. I've got visible abs. I got some knocking shoulders. And I think I've done pretty well for not hiring a trainer and just basing my routine and my techniques and my tempo and everything has been based off of studies. So I've tweaked and adapted in light of the new information that comes out. Now, certifying organizations like NASM and ISSA and other certified personal trainer organizations, they use studies as well for their information. I mean, they all do. But unfortunately, it's with the influx of information and the new studies that come out, they have a hard time updating all their information. So they pretty much just keep it the same and just copy and paste, and that's what everybody does because there's not a lot of changes. But there are enough changes if your goal is hypertrophy or if your goal is strength, and in some different areas in which these studies show some changes. Some things that are now established facts versus what we thought a long time ago. And to say that I need to hire a trainer is just another way of saying I'm wrong. And when it comes to training, especially with these three people, which I found disingenuous, especially with the goals that I have and the information that I bring out. And here's the funny thing. It ends up that two of the people, came out and said this in light of the heavyweight low reps versus low weight versus high reps information that I put, and which came from studies. What are the odds? And I'm just sharing that information and saying basically, if you hit a plateau and you're doing heavy weights, whether it's strength or hypertrophy, try switching over to the low weights and the high repetitions and increasing the volume a little bit so you do more. Volume seems to be a key thing along with working to failure or close to failure. So as another tool in the toolbox of offering that and saying, well, if you've done everything and you're still hitting a plateau, try switching it around and see what happens. Give it a try, because the study showed that this is indeed a thing. And it might be worth looking into if you're really concerned about hitting your goals and you're not because you're stalled. And doing the same thing and getting the same results and expecting different results is crazy, and it's a waste of time. So, yeah, there's that. Another individual had a discussion with, and he ended up saying that, well, I've been working out for 40 years. Well, congratulations. That doesn't mean you're right. The amount of information that we have on exercise and fitness, nutrition and recovery that we have now versus 40 years ago has changed the landscape immensely. There's so many things. We used to believe in spot fat reduction. That's not a thing. We used to believe that free weights versus machines were better for hypertrophy. That's been done away with. There's the anabolic window that you have to eat a half hour after you work out. Otherwise, you're going to lose your gains. No, that's not a thing either. They've actually done studies showing that you can eat 2, 3, 4, 6, even up to 12 hours after your workout with high protein, and you will still get the effects. You won't lose gains because you didn't eat 30 minutes or an hour after your workout. You can. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. You can. And a recent study showed that I think it was like an hour after your workout, if you ate 100 grams of protein, it ends up that your body uses all of that protein. So again, there's another myth that was busted. Another study showed that your body can only assimilate or absorb 30 grams of protein, and so high protein diets and high intake of protein is you just crap it out. That's been disproven as well. So there's a lot of things that have been disproven. The single set versus multiple sets. For some reason, some people have taken Dorian Yates and Mike Mentzer's programs is saying you only need to do one set per body part isn't being, how should I put this? It isn't being true to what Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates put out, because they would do 1 or 2 warm-up sets at 70% of 1 rep max, and then they would do a working set at 100%, so that's 3 sets. So they never did just 1 working set per body part, but yet we have wackadoos that are trying to sell programs that are quick, fast, and easy and promise incredible, fantastical results with 1 set per body part for hypertrophy and strength, and studies have been done showing that's not true. So again, it comes down to volume. They say, oh, well, it's all about intensity. No, it actually comes down a lot more to volume. with all things being equal, going to failure or close to failure, if all those things being equal, there is no need to go to 100%, because you incur higher rates of injury. And the studies show, excuse me, the studies show that going from, depending on the weights that you use, heavier or light, you can go from 60 to 85% of your one rep max, and you can get the most max efficiency for hypertrophy and strength gains that you don't need to dip into that 100%. Now, does that mean I never go, higher into the higher percentages? No, you go lift from time to time, and it's great. It's another tool in the toolbox to keep me motivated. I set goals, and, it's a thing. But I'm not going to say, especially as a senior, heavy weights and low reps can be hard on joints and tendons and so on and so forth. So, with that said, the study's showing that if you do low weight with higher repetitions, with 2 to 3 minutes between sets, is easier on your joints. You can still experience hypertrophy, and if you're in a maintenance phase, it's a great way to maintain, because you don't have to put that much effort into maintaining your physique. So you don't need to kill your joints and tendons through doing thousands and thousands of repetitions, or with low weight, or super heavy weight with low reps, and it's, I tweaked this. Every single big injury that I've seen, whether it's a bicep tear, whether it's pec tear, whether it's shoulder, the majority of time it involves heavy weight. And as seniors, we need to realize that as we get older, our ligaments, our tendons, our joints, the connective tissues, and so on and so forth, when the muscles connect eventually to the bones, it's not as resilient as it once was when we were in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. It's just, it's that law of thermodynamics that everything breaks down over time, and that's what we experience. So the good news is that we can still experience hypertrophy and strength gains if we want, by using these other methods or techniques, and either one is fine. It's not a this versus them. It's not on versus off. It's another tool in the toolbox that is available, so that no matter the situation that I'm in, if I'm doing heavy weights and I'm plateauing, let's do the high repetitions with low weights, and I can still experience some gains. Studies show that to be true. Let's say if I get to a place of where I meet the level or the goal of where I want to be physically with strength and hypertrophy, and it's like, okay, now I just want to go into cruise mode because I'm old and I'm happy with where I'm at. I just want to maintain. Low weights with higher repetitions is a great way to do that. And the same way, you could also say the same thing for the heavy weights and low reps, but there's going to be that issue of putting undue stress on your joints, ligaments, and tendons. So, you might have to lower the weight a little bit instead of going 100%, with the heavy weights and the low reps if you're trying to maintain your physique. You just don't need to do that to maintain. And, and even that alone shows that how much that we don't know. And for the people that end up saying, well, I've been working out for 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, we didn't know this information 40 years ago. So trying to say that, yes, I'm right based on because I've been working out since the early 80s, we didn't know this information. You didn't know this information. The information that you had at the time was fraught with bro science and things that people thought were true but weren't. Spot fat reduction, anabolic window, blah, 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 all of that stuff, and many more. It doesn't mean that you're right. And really, when you look at it, the longer you've been working out, it means probably you have more false information that you think is true than what is actually true, based on studies that keep coming out at greater frequencies when it comes to sports science and exercise. So I just find it kind of funny that people will play little games and things like that, and all because I share information saying, hey, if you're stuck on something, Here's another tool to try and see if it works. Here's what the study showed. The study showed that this and this and that works and this works. So if you're doing this, try this over here, and that might get you as a stepping stool to reach your goals, and then you can go back. I constantly, I wouldn't say constantly. I bounce from hypertrophy to strength training, go back and forth a couple times a year. Because I find with hypertrophy, I can only get so much hypertrophy, and I'm pretty much at the peak of where I'm at, that I have certain goals for myself. And so when I hit a plateau, I'll go from hypertrophy to strength training, and then I'll set some goals for strength training, and then I come back to hypertrophy training, and I'll get some more results. Granted, they're small, results, but again, the longer you're in the game of lifting and exercising and hypertrophy and strength, those goalposts are going to be further and further apart. You're not going to get as much better results because you've been in the game for so long. And this comes when we're talking about gains, like hypertrophy gains, building muscle. Generally, you'll see a lot of articles that talk about how much muscle you can gain in a year with a good routine, good nutrition, good recovery. Can be anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds in a year. 20 is kind of on the high end. You really have to be dialed in with your nutrition. I'd say the hardest part is nutrition. But let's say 10 to 20 pounds, let's say 15 pounds in a year of muscle, it's kind of somewhere in that range, which is absolutely good. But after that year, what are you going to get in the second year? Well, a lot of articles, most of them reference and say the second year, generally what you see is you get about half the gains in your second year that you got from the first. So let's say let's just say you got 10 pounds of muscle in the first year. Your second year, you can expect to probably get about 5 pounds of muscle. The third year, what are you going to get? Well, third year, you're going to get half of the second year. And it just keeps going on. So after a number of years, you're really going to not see as much gain or muscle growth as you did in that first couple of years. Pretty much you're maxed out. Now, the thing that we need to look at, does that mean that you're not going to gain any more muscle? Absolutely not. Because what I've found is most people will do compound movements. Most people will do, one or two exercises and per muscle group. And then, that's pretty much it. But as they want more size, then they start getting more detailed exercises for that muscle group. So for example, for shoulders, most people will do a front military press to work the shoulders, which is actually engaging most of your front delts here. For your side delts and rear delts, you need to do some other exercises. So as you're trying to sculpt yourself into getting more size, you start doing isolation exercises to grow the muscles that you haven't been placing a lot of resistance on. So like side delts and especially the rear delts. So, you start doing some lateral raises, you do some cable work, you end up doing some reverse rows to get those rear delts, or as you're laying on a bench and you're bringing that dumbbell up like that and you're really working that back delt, and you'll see growth. So that's where that comes into play. So I'm not saying that your hypertrophy is going to stall and stop, but you will find out that over time that doing isolation exercises, in other words, putting resistance on those muscle groups that you neglected because you're just doing Barney basic exercises, you will get growth. And that's where I'm at. That's where a lot of people are at who are looking for size and is to tweak those areas. And, for the average person that goes to the gym 3 days a week, does, 75 minutes to 150 minutes of cardio a week, they don't care about that, which is absolutely fine. That's not their goal. Just going to the gym 3 days a week and doing cardio is so awesome for your health and your heart health. I'm happy, when I see people in the gym and they're doing something and they're not getting big like me or strong like me, but they're still hitting the gym religiously and doing their thing. I know that they have dedication and commitment. I know that their health, at least from an exercise standpoint, is on point, and they're going to reap the benefits of that. And that's awesome. They don't have to do what I do. Just they're doing their thing and they're going to reap those benefits. Excuse me. So anyway, I mean, that's what it comes down to is, setting goals and using the tools and information that's available to reach those goals. For the people that are concerned about a well-rounded physique, that's where you get into the people that are like, okay, well, I've been doing military press for, 2 or 3 years now, and my front delts are fine, but now my side delts, I really need to probably do something about those, and my non-existent rear delts. What about the triceps? There are exercises that you can isolate the 3 different heads of your triceps, and you can get some max definition, you can get some muscle growth, and it's an eye-opener. Imagine, so it's a growing and it's an evolving process. When we talk about health and fitness and exercise and talking about hypertrophy and strength gains, and studies and meta-analysis really help us focus and target in on the things that are important. If you're trying to reach a goal, why would you concern yourself with stuff that are not facts? It doesn't make sense. I would rather use things that have been shown over a large segment of people, whether they're trained or untrained, men, women, young or old, in regards to strength or hypertrophy or whatever it is, maybe it's endurance training. Let's focus on the conclusive findings that these scientists have found and concluded from doing testing in control groups, measuring muscles, doing muscle biopsies, MRIs, DEXA scans, and all that. Let's use that information. But when people don't like the information that you share, some people will say, well, you need to hire a trainer. You just don't know what you're talking about. You need to hire a trainer. They will get you to where you need to be. And it's like, I got a 51-inch chest. I got 18-inch arms. I've got visible abs. There are certain areas that I'm working on, but I'm not going to hire a trainer. And funny story, the other day, I had a guy who was a trainer for 7 years stop me. I was in between sets and I was resting. He goes, hey, my name's so-and-so, I want to talk if you've got a few minutes. Yeah, I got a few minutes. So he's a certified personal NASM trainer, and he's asking me about my tempo of doing the repetition. He's asking, and as we discuss more, he's asking me about my routine, why I do certain things in the way that I do, and so on and so forth. And I brought about these studies, and I base my routine and the things that I do based off of these studies. And he's like, wow, he goes, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, yeah, this study just came out in 2023. This one came out in 2020. This one came out in 2019. And so the certifying fitness organizations don't update their material as quickly as the information comes out. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the nature of the beast. They would have to rewrite, and that's cost prohibitive, for their bottom line. And some of these things are, I wouldn't say insignificant, but they've got about 90% or 80% of the information that they put out is great. But there's these small things in regard to these special areas of hypertrophy or strength gains or whatever, which studies have shown new information that probably needs to be updated. And of course, they could sell that as well and make some money, but it's just not, to develop the curriculum, that's going to take some expense. So again, it's all about balancing out that bottom line and how many expenses. Why would I want to spend more money when I'm not really going to get a huge return on bringing out that information? And that's exactly what it comes down to. So yeah, I just kind of thought it was funny that the person said, oh, you need to hire a trainer. And all 3 of these guys are personal trainers who have said things in the past similar to that, I can help you out and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm kind of on the same level as you, and I just don't need it, If I was going to, now I did hire a trainer one time. I did hire a trainer as an online coach, but in all honesty, this guy was pretty hyped up. He's pretty famous on socials and Instagram and so on and so forth. And I was like, I'm just kind of curious. Because really what I want to do is look at my routine and the information I had and look at his routine and what he gave me and see if there's any glaring differences. And to be honest with you, there wasn't. And it was just, here's a program, cut and paste, which is really what it was. It's a cut and paste program, which there's nothing wrong with that. And you're selling that, but there was nothing earth shattering about the routine that was like, oh my gosh, I totally missed this. I should, I'm going to include. No, that never really hit. That stuff wasn't really there. It's just, maybe a couple different exercises for isolation was different than what I did, but there's nothing in there that I couldn't have gotten off of Instagram or, from Ryan Hummelson or Jeff Nippard or who's that other cat? Peter Miljack has got some great information. Or, Mental Heiselman's, he's in Dr. Mike Israetel. It's nothing that couldn't be had for free on checking out socials and, again, good quality information, verifying to make sure that it's actually right. So, yeah, the only time I would hire a personal trainer is if somebody, in other words, if I was going to go into competition. And I've never done a bodybuilding competition. I've kind of flirted with the idea every once in a while, but it's like, But if I was going to, I would hire a personal trainer that I would see in person multiple times during a week and it would have to be somebody who is obviously in remarkably better shape than me. And unless it was like Charles Glass, he was a top bodybuilder, one of the original gangsters. But as an old man now, he's kind of smaller in frame and stuff. That would be the exception. But generally, I would want somebody who is at the top of their game and has got an awesome physique. So, yeah. But I don't think that's going to happen, honestly. I don't know. It might happen. But I think for being 57, I could be 58 this year. I don't think I don't think I really need that. It ends up. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I mean, for the most part, boom. I would say that right there. I think I'm doing pretty good. I think I'm doing pretty good for almost being 58. I could be 58 this year. Of course, everybody can say that. Well, this year I'm going to be, the next, whatever. Here's another one. I think I've done a fair amount of work. I think I've gotten some real good results with the information that I've gotten that have done well for me. And so, to hire a personal trainer, I just don't think it would be in the cards for me. I'm not writing it off. There's a possibility that I would do that, but I would have to find somebody that could really help me attain a goal if I was going to do a competition, because I think I've got a pretty decent physique. But I just don't, it's just, that's not one of my goals. I have personal goals of getting big and training muscles and doing certain things and reaching certain goals that I have. And right now I'm working on legs. That's one of my weak areas. My upper chest used to be my weak area. My shoulders used to be weak areas. My triceps used to be weak areas. Didn't have visible abs. That was a weak area. But now I'm concentrating on my legs, and that's proving to be a little difficult because of the number of injuries that I have. I've got some herniated discs. I've got chronic pain. I got radiculopathy in both of my legs. I got nerve damage and the whole 9 yards. I've got spinal stenosis. I've got arthritis, degenerative disc disease. Again, I've got the chronic pain, which is constant. It's just always there, stabbing, throbbing, dull. I get the whole gamut of pain, and it's a lot better now. But that limits what I can do in regards to exercising my legs. So, yeah, I can't do squats. Barbell squats, I can't do those because for some reason the areas in which I have those injuries from, car crash, motorcycle crash, helicopter crash, all of those have got me to a place of where I can't do barbell squats. So if I do, it's got to be lightweight. Maybe that's where the lightweight and the higher repetitions comes into play. I don't know. I haven't broached that subject with my back. So even though it works, I've got some injuries that I got to contend with, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting how there's a lot of confirmational bias with people and trainers, and especially when you bring out new information and just saying, hey, this is available. This is another tool. Whether you use it or not, I don't really care. But to say that that tool does not exist, that's like walking into a hardware store and saying, here's a hammer, here's a finishing hammer, and saying, nope, that there's no such thing as a finishing hammer. It's right there. It's I can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. You can't ignore, well, you can, but you can't ignore the fact that this is an established thing. And I find that is what happens in the world of health and fitness when people are selling programs, especially the hokey, fitness influencers, kind of like the one set per body part, only work out 20 minutes, twice a week, selling their quick, fast, and superior claims in a minimal amount of time. That's not how it works. You need to put in the time, and a lot of their information is not based off of studies, but what they believe is true. And what you believe is true and what is actually true can be two different things. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting of people saying, you need to hire a trainer, good. No, online personal training will only take you so far, and there's only so much interaction that you can have with that trainer. It fails miserably because the majority of training back in the day, you would have a personal trainer who would show up at the gym. They would do an assessment. They would ask a ton of questions. They would get your information. They would do exercises, and they would write down the weights, and they would do this and show you how to do the correct form, how to contract the muscle that you're working. I'm amazed at the number of people who have talked to me in the gym saying, hey, how did you get your big shoulders? And it's like, well, I do this, and this exercise, or this exercise for, and they're like, yeah, I do those, but I'm not getting any results. Well, what's your nutrition? Well, and then they tell me, and it's like, you need to up your protein big time. You need to add more carbs. And then when it comes down to the exercise specifically, a lot of people don't know how to flex or contract their individual shoulder muscles. And so I'll see people that will be doing incline presses and their front delts aren't getting the most of the workout. It's mostly their arms that are getting the workout. Yeah, they're getting some, but until you can learn how to contract and feel that front delt as you go up and bring those biceps together, because that's what it's doing, is it's shortening that muscle and contracting. As it contracts, that's its job, is to bring this forward. You can press all day and get an awesome tricep and chest workout, but you can still lose because you don't know how to contract or how it feels to contract that front delt. Same thing with the side delts. There's different angles in which you can do those exercises, and like rear delts. If you do a cable rear delt as you're coming back, what I've noticed is a lot of people will do that rear cable. They'll use too much weight and they involve their traps and their lats and really try to do this. And it's like, you're getting some on the rear delt, but what you need to do is just kind of go back and keep your back in one place instead of like trying to arch back like this, because you're working more of the inside muscles of your back. So you're taking resistance off of that rear delt. And again, it goes back to, are you exercising the muscle that you're trying to improve? Yeah, you're getting some, but can you look and see in a mirror and say, okay, well, I can see that I'm getting more activation with this and this angle with a lower weight, and then actually squeezing, adjusting the tempo of the repetition, and all of that stuff. So anyway, yeah, it's just very, very different. Same thing with chest. There's a lot of people who, and I talk from personal experience, I didn't have an upper chest. I was doing inclines, but I didn't have an upper chest, and it's because I didn't understand how to contract those muscles and really focus on that upper chest. I was doing the exercise, but I wasn't learning how to contract that upper chest and use it to the best of my ability. I was getting more of an arm workout and a front delt workout, but when I started understanding and seeing how the muscles are attached and see the muscle fibers and how they're laid out in the chest, then you can start to visualize and understand. And then using a lighter weight is what I found is you can do an incline press and then you can contract that upper chest and you can feel it, but then I can push out and then it's kind of soft. So there's a difference between flexing that upper chest versus going out and then having that be soft. That is a huge thing. And that's what trainers in person will be able to show you. An online trainer cannot show you how to do that in person because they're not there in person. Now maybe there's some online trainers where you set up your camera, you're doing FaceTime, and you put in a tripod and you do the exercise, and he or she could point that out to you. I've never seen anybody do that to evaluate their client with FaceTime. That could be a good tool, but there's something to be said that if you hire a trainer, hire one that's in person and somebody who's smart and knowledgeable to show you how to do things correctly, how to contract, and so on and so forth. Now you might be thinking, oh, this is where Steve's going to be offering his routine and program. Nope, I don't sell programs, which is something else that a lot of fitness influencers accuse me of. Oh, you're just trolling for clients. And it's like, nope, I have 0 clients. I've helped a lot of people. I've made routines for people. I've done nutrition plans for people, but I don't charge money. And since I'm retired, it's on a case-by-case basis, and I don't do it as much as I used to. So what I end up doing is just showing this information and sharing the information for free. But yeah, I just find it kind of funny how I'll get a plethora of responses when new facts come out from studies and conclusive evidence, and it kind of ruffles up the feathers of the people who are steeped in bro science and things that they thought were true, which are now been disproven. So, yeah, apparently I got to hire a trainer. With that said, today is training day. What is today? Today's Monday here in Korea. So that means it's biceps and triceps. So we're going to kill us some biceps and triceps today. Anyway, for those of you in the United States and other parts of the world where it's still Sunday, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and feel free to like and subscribe to the video. Would appreciate that. I also do some hobby stuff. I also have some videos on how we sold everything in the United States and we retired overseas. We're here in Korea, so I've got videos on our journey with that. I haven't updated that in a while. Probably do an expense video, monthly utilities and things like that, our living expenses here in Korea. We've been here over a year now since we left, and we need to do a video on that. So got that, do some resin printing, 3D printing, painting miniatures and kind of cool stuff, and little dudes. Gives me something to do besides slamming weights in the gym. Yeah, I'm retired, so got to do something besides the reading and binging on Tubi and all those movie channel things, Netflix, whatever, Hulu. But today's workout day. So I got to slam down some breakfast, go hit the gym, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. Yeah, good stuff. I need a trainer.